Hey there, my name is Tarek Rivera. My good friend Hasitha Ella. Hasitha asked me to try to share my story, so I thought I'll do that. Her and I both have a disability. My disability is from myasthenia gravis. A good amount of the time, I have to stay inside. My energy is too low, so I'm normally in bed. And if I'm not in bed, then I have to use a wheelchair or walker. If it's like in the house, I can use like a walker. But outside the house, it's always a wheelchair. I think, in terms of my story, um, there's a like many of us are disabled. Many of us um, go through a period of time where you're not exactly sure how to define yourself as a person. When if you're, and I'm sure it's tough for anyone. Like if they're born with it. I wasn't born with it. It came later in life. It happened sort of like out of nowhere. So this like kind of like strange um, jolt of a realization that from being like a dancer, be athletic and working out and being very physically expressive to going to the point to where um, I'm just basically at a loss at the first stage of it, and then I had to, as we do, we redefine ourselves, we evolve, and we find ourselves again. I did find myself again, and I became, in some ways, thankful of the experience because I think as a person and as an artist, as an activist, and model, like all these things that I love doing, um, became more intensified. Cause I had more depth. That except for of course dancing, I couldn't dance anymore, but that energy just went to other areas. Especially being an activist, I think that really struck a chord with me because I started to understand um, when you become introspective. This kind of makes you become more introspective, and you start to look further into things. You start to define like what does it mean to be a human being. What does it mean to be me? What does it mean to be you? We're not the sum of our parts. Our body doesn't define us. And anything that our challenges that we go through today don't define us. I think what really defines us is how we see those challenges. How process that. Like some people become stronger, some people become withdrawn and break down, which is understandable. It is tough. But for those of us that are excelling, I congratulate you on becoming a stronger person through this. Those that are struggling, that's totally understandable. Like I say, I mean, it's like on one hand, um, the voice in the back of your head, that you feel that could be on the negative side. Whenever we have a moment of weakness, um, we can look bad at ourselves, and that's a total human thing to do. I think the thing is not to suppress these emotions, to let it pass through you. Whether all emotions are good so long as they happen the right time in the right levels. So if someone suppresses any emotion, it's going to create a sort of an imbalance. So if someone feels really upset one day, if you feel upset, whether you have a disability or any issue in terms of how you see yourself, regardless, of how society defines things. Because society defines us one way, and reality has nothing to do with that. In our reality, like we define who we are, we define what makes us us. So let those emotions uh, out, release those emotions. Yell, scream, laugh, cry. You know, all these things are great. All these things make us human. Um, should be celebrated. So once you let those out, I think it helps. And then in terms of talking to others, like you might be watching this video, um, spending time talking to people who understand. Sometimes talking to those that don't understand, the fact that they can embrace you. I myself, I'm married and my wife doesn't have this form of disability, but she embraces me regardless, and that means a lot. So either ways, whether someone embraces you because they see the person that you are, or they embrace you because they're going through a similar experience, it's a beautiful thing either way. So the main thing is just to express yourself and not have any like expectations, if you will. Just like, because when you try to put a label on someone, and have sort of like these sort of limited viewpoints based on past experiences. We all been hurt, all have been called names or ridiculed for being different for some reason or another. It's ridiculous, because we're all human. We all have good things and bad things, and I think that it is ridiculous because we're all human. Um, we all want the right to be loved, to express ourselves. We all should have equal rights. I know there's a lot of uh, stigma for those that haven't gone through an experience of being disabled. But now with the pandemic, the way everything had happened, everyone being cooped up inside, regardless if he had a disability or not, it kind of put the playing field on the same level to an extent where people who weren't disabled start realizing what it's like for those that are disabled and don't have the full range of getting around, like whether you have to stay in bed, like myself, or in a wheelchair, or just have a compromised immune system that you can't go anywhere, and so people don't have these physical disabilities start to understand, and these mental emotions like depression and anxiety start to develop across the board in like every country. So I think now is probably the best time for people to be more receptive with those with disabilities. Because when you think about it, in terms of physical disability, that's one form of disability. But I really see depression, anxiety, um, as another version of that. It's just more. It's an emotional aspect of it. So I think a lot of people, um, on one level, just don't talk about those emotions, and that they themselves have a disability. So let's not judge each other without really getting understand each other's story. I think we all have a responsibility to take time to understand each other, and that's like really the thing that helps. So when people give each other a chance, there's so many great friendships I've had developed over years with people that on the surface they look like they have nothing in common with me, but in actuality, there's a lot more there. Like myself, like I have long hair, nails, gothic, but I myself, taught art to children, taught martial arts before my disability, taught dance. I was a manager in a call center and more of a corporate level. And that's another thing too. Social media has been a great bridge nowadays for helping people share their stories and understand our trials and tribulations, the good and the bad, like the full gambit of, in a sense, what we all are going through. And so I'm really thankful I'm having this opportunity today with you to share a little bit what I'm going through. And I'm sure it's striking a chord of a lot of similar things that you yourself have gone through or are going through right now. Like just like the other day, I had a great day, but then there were some days that are bad. Some days I'm like, and I'm losing too much weight. And you get scared. Your mortality kind of flashes before your eyes for a second. And when you're younger, I definitely think we take that for granted when we're younger. Opposed to when you get older. I'm 42 right now, and I never thought I'll have these physical things happening to me, but now that I am, it's like I try to remind myself, don't it's like in the past, like I try to project a sort of ideal version of myself, what I thought I should be, and that totally is not who I am. Who I am now is the person I'm supposed to be. And so when you start thinking things like that, you start living more in the present. You start having these sort of premeditated versions of like what you want to have in life. Of course, it's great to have goals. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's also great to be flexible, to adapt. And that way, you don't become stagnant. You don't break down. That's the whole thing about water. Water always changes. It reshapes itself. It takes the shape of what's around it. because that, it always exists. Can you imagine if water didn't do that? If water, like, all of a sudden, like, you had it in a cup and you turned the cup upside down, and it didn't revert back to its state. It just kind of stayed in the same shape. It looked really freaky, right? So that's like a physical, um, sort of version or metaphor of what I'm talking about. So when you think about that, um, that type of physics applies to our everyday life. If you have a bad day, instead of like holding on to that anger or anxiety, try to find your favorite song. Try to talk to your best friend. Try to spend some time with someone you're close to. You find that balance. You adapt. You grow. You express. I think another cool thing to think about is whenever we find ourselves reflecting too much on the past. I mean, that's the first stage of or stages of becoming disabled. That's kind of a habit a lot of us have. Like we might live too much in the past, or like we're thinking about our peak. But like I say, you redefine that stuff. You can create new memories, create new photos. Pick a day in a week where people's schedules finally coincide together. You can make new memories with people that are close to you, or even for yourself. Take or time for yourself. If there's like your favorite meal you like to have, and have that meal while watching your favorite TV show, like little things. Trying to have a way to where you can meditate sometime, or have a day whether it's like a mantra. Some people have mantras, or like a phrase that to try to remind themselves who they are. I think it's funny because Saturday Night Live made fun of that one time, or for a long time. But like I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like me. The guy is Stuart Smalley, and he's looking in the mirror. But what's weird about that? That's actually kind of works. Like maybe it was not doing like that exactly, but basically, just reminding who you are. Like saying like if you're a person that prides intelligence, and you have that tenacity to apply your intelligence to different things, whether you do computer coding, or you play chess, or maybe you're someone that likes to make jokes. Write something that gets shown like on like a web series, and that can grow to other things. Like I was trying to remember the name of this movie where there's a comedian, and he actually him and his wife wrote a story about her battle with cancer, and how they had just become a couple around that same time, and that became like this huge movie. So I thought that was really cool, because it shows that life throws you a curveball. Life has a tendency to change. Like Emily Dickinson, Emily Dickinson is like one of my favorite poets, and she says the only constant is constant inconsistency. And that's probably the truest thing ever, right there. And so when you accept the pattern of chaos, you're able to flow with it better, instead of trying to like hold chaos in the palm of your hand, like a black hole in the palm of your hand. Like it's like you can't do that. You have to always have the best intentions, of course, and try your best. But when something goes against your plans, we all just have to try our best to let out that disappointment first, to let the process of like, oh my god, I can't believe this happened. But then also replace that with something positive, like okay, if that happened, then I'll adapt, I'll figure something else out. And sometimes you don't even have the answers. You might just start talking, expressing yourself to people around you, and then that person might have a solution. So that's another thing. We can always put all the pressure on ourselves. When we work with others, the sky's the limit. There's infinite possibilities. The more heads are working on a problem, the more we can benefit as a whole. As a world, I think. So, getting back to what I was saying about the pandemic, I think that whether it's like a chat room forums, or using YouTube, or using Instagram, or talking to people, just open up. Try to talk to people, try to become part of groups. Express ourselves, and it's like there's not one way to do something. That's the thing. Like whatever works for you, to release my focus in this video is all about releasing tension within us. Whether you have a physical disability or just going through something, we're all going through some life. So that's what ties us together is like our similarities. Something to think about. Again, thanks again, Cynthia, for this opportunity.